There is a wall of fire moving across this grassland at the speed of a man jogging, and every animal in front of it is running. A bird 4 feet tall is walking the other way. She is not panicking, and she is not trapped. She has wings that span 7 feet, and she is choosing not to use them. She walks to within 30 feet of the flames, turns, and starts working along the edge of the fire, as calmly as if she were crossing a lawn. And in the next 2 hours, she will eat more than she normally eats in 2 days. Because the fire is not the danger in this story. The fire is the machine she came to use. What you are about to see is not bravery, and it is not a bird being stupid about heat. It is the single largest piece of hunting equipment in Africa, running for free, and one species that is built almost perfectly to stand next to it. Stay to the end, because the biggest payday from this fire does not arrive today. It arrives on the black ground afterwards, and it lasts 2 weeks. Here is the whole afternoon before we take it apart. At 2:10, a column of smoke goes up about 3 miles west, where dry grass has caught in the heat. At 2:20, a female secretary bird out here called Imani stops hunting, lifts her head, and starts walking directly toward it. At 3:05, she is at the flank of the fire, 30 feet from a line of flame taller than she is. For the next hour, she works that line on foot, taking one animal after another out of the strip of grass in front of it. By 5:10, the front has moved on, and she is standing on ground that is black, bare, still smoking, and completely without hiding places. She is in her 6th year. She weighs about 8 pounds, and she stands 4 feet tall. Most of that height is leg. Those legs are 2.5 feet of bone and tendon, scaled like armor from the foot to well above the knee. She can walk 15 to 20 miles in a day, and routinely does. And she almost never hunts from the air. And the reason she almost never hunts from the air is the strangest thing about her. She is a bird of prey with the feet of a chicken. Her toes are short. Her claws are blunt and curved for pressure rather than puncture, and she cannot close them around anything. She cannot pick prey up, cannot carry it, and cannot pin it down and tear pieces off it the way a hawk does. Everything about how this bird hunts follows from one missing ability. She has no grip. And that one limitation decides everything she is allowed to eat. She takes grasshoppers, beetles, mice, rats, young hares, lizards, frogs, ground-nesting birds and their eggs, and snakes of almost any kind. What all of those have in common is size. Every single one of them has to be small enough to go down her throat in one piece, or soft enough to break apart with impacts alone. So she is not a bird that hunts what it can beat. She is a bird that hunts what it can swallow. So she does the only thing left. She hits things. Her kick lands with a force around 5 times her own body weight, delivered straight down through the ball of the foot. Contact lasts somewhere near 15 thousandths of a second, which is faster than a blink, and far faster than anything on the ground can respond to. She is not clubbing prey to death over several seconds. She is landing single, aimed, extremely brief impacts on a specific point. That is the entire weapon, and it only works on something she can see and reach at the end of a straight leg. Which brings us to the problem that shapes her whole day. She cannot use that leg on anything she cannot see. This grassland stands 3 feet high in a good season, thicker than a wheat field, and every animal she eats lives inside it. So her normal working method is not stalking, and it is not ambush. It is beating. She walks and walks and walks, and things bolt out of the grass in front of her feet, and she kicks the ones that bolt. And that method has a price attached that is easy to miss. Walking 20 miles through thick grass to flush a few dozen small animals is enormously expensive in energy and time. Her strike is almost free. Her searching is what costs everything. A bird like this is not limited by how hard she can hit. She is limited by how much grass she can push through before dark. Anything that makes prey move without her having to walk is worth more to her than any weapon, which is why she almost never works alone. Secretary birds hold territory in pairs and stay together for years, and the two of them walk the same ground in loose parallel lines, a few dozen yards apart. Two bodies pushing through grass do not flush twice as much as one. They flush more than that, because anything that dodges sideways away from one bird runs into the working area of the other. Neither of them is helping the other on purpose. They are simply two beaters in the same field. Her mate is somewhere south of her this afternoon, and he will read the same smoke column she does. Now flip the same landscape around and look at it from the other side. For the mice, rats, lizards, snakes, frogs, grasshoppers, and beetles living in that grass, the grass is not scenery. It is the only asset they own. None of them are fast enough to outrun a bird with a 2.5-foot leg, and none of them are armored. Every one of them survives by not being visible, and that is the whole of their defense, which means there is exactly one thing that can break all of them at once, and it is not a predator. And it is worth separating who actually loses in what is coming, because it is not everyone equally. Anything that lives underground can drop a foot below the surface and let the whole event pass over the top of it. Anything with wings can leave, and anything with long legs can outpace a line moving at 4 miles an hour. The animals that are ruined are the ones whose entire survival strategy is standing cover above ground at ankle height. Fire does not sort animals by strength or by speed. It sorts them by where they keep their protection. At 2:10, 3 miles west, that thing starts. Dry grass in the late season is not really a plant community anymore. It is fuel, standing upright, with air between the stems. A fire in it moves at 3 to 6 miles an hour with the wind, throwing flame 6 to 10 feet up, and it does not stop for anything smaller than a river. In front of it, the ground empties. Behind it, there is nothing but black soil and gray ash. And the shape of that heat is the reason a bird can stand as close to it as she does. A grass fire burns fast and thin because there is very little material in it, and almost all of the heat goes straight up. A few feet out to the side of the flame, the air is hot and unpleasant rather than lethal, and the ground has already begun to cool within minutes of the front passing. This kind of fire is survivable at close range for a large animal, and every fire follower in Africa is built around that fact. And Imani's reaction to that smoke is the hinge of this entire story. She does not fly. She does not move away. She does not even hurry. She raises her head, holds it for a few seconds, and then turns and walks west into a headwind carrying ash. A smoke column for this bird is not a warning. It is an address. Because smoke is the cheapest information in the savannah, and it says one thing very clearly. Somewhere out there, thousands of acres of cover are being deleted all at once along a moving line. Every animal that has spent its life being invisible is about to be forced into the open in a place she can predict. She does not need to understand combustion to use that. She needs one rule. Smoke means the grass is opening, and smoke is the only signal in this landscape that travels further than eyesight normally works. A column like this one is visible from 10 or 15 miles out on flat ground, standing up above every tree and ridge in the district, which means a bird with good long-range vision and a rule about smoke has effectively been handed a live map of where hunting will be easy today. She is 3 miles away and already earning, and she has not taken a step yet. And she is not the only one who works that rule. By the time she is a mile out, there are already kites in the air over the fire, dozens of them, turning in the heat above the flames. Storks are walking the burnt margin behind. Rollers are sitting on isolated bushes ahead of the front, dropping onto whatever crosses the bare patches. A savanna fire does not just move animals, it calls a crowd. And every species in that crowd already knows what a smoke column is for. What is striking is how little they interfere with each other. The kites are taking grasshoppers and moths coming off the flames in mid-air, which she physically cannot do. The storks are working the cooled black ground for what is dead and cooked. She is working the strip of standing grass just in front of the flames, on foot, for what is still alive and running. 3 completely different tools, aimed at 3 different parts of the same event, and almost no overlap between them. That is possible because a fire does not produce one kind of exposure. It produces several at once. It pushes insects up into the air, where wings are the right tool. It drives running animals forward along the ground, where legs and reach are the right tool. It leaves cooked bodies lying on bare soil behind, where patience and a long bill are the right tool. 1 event, 3 separate markets, and none of these species has to fight any of the others to be paid. At 3:05, she reaches the fire, and where she chooses to stand is not accidental. She does not go to the head of the fire, where the flame is highest and moving fastest. She works the flank, the long side of the burn, where the line is thinner, lower, and moving sideways rather than at her. On that side, the smoke is being pushed away from her instead of over her, and there is open ground behind her the whole time. She has a work face in front of her and an exit at her back, permanently. And the ground she is choosing to stand on is the safest surface in this entire landscape today. She works with her feet on the burnt side of the line, on ash and bare soil that has nothing left in it to catch. A fire cannot come back through ground it has already taken, because the fuel is gone. Everything that could burn is in front of her, and everything behind her is already spent. She is not standing beside a fire. She is standing inside the only fire break for miles, and she got there by walking through the door as it opened. And the thing she is actually hunting is not the fire. It is a line about 3 feet wide. Ahead of the flame, the grass is still standing. Behind it, there is nothing at all. Between those 2 states, there is a narrow strip where the temperature has become unbearable, but the cover has not yet burned. Every living thing in the path is squeezed forward into that strip, and then out of it. She is not standing near a fire. She is standing at the only door in a building that is being demolished. Watch what comes out of it, because it explains the whole afternoon. Mice come out first, in 1s and 2s, running straight and fast on a fixed line away from the heat. Lizards come out low and skittering, stopping in the open, which is fatal here. A snake comes out of the smoke, moving fast in a straight line, which is the worst possible thing it can do in front of this animal. And everything that emerges does so with the heat behind it, which means none of it can turn round. That last detail is worth more to her than anything else about the fire. An animal escaping a predator can zigzag, double back, and use cover behind it. An animal escaping a fire has one available direction, and she is standing in it. She does not have to guess where it will go. Physics has already decided. Her strike is not fast, because she is quick. It is effective because the target has run out of options before it arrives. And because a miss costs her nothing, she can afford to take shots no other predator would bother with. A leg that comes down on empty ash has spent a fraction of a second and no risk whatsoever. There is no chase, no grappling, no chance of being bitten while holding something, and nothing to recover from. Her method is not powerful so much as it is cheap, and cheap is what lets her take 100 attempts in an afternoon. And her method at that line is almost mechanical. She walks parallel to the flame, head down, long strides, watching a band of ground about 6 feet wide in front of her feet. When something breaks out, one leg comes up and comes down, and she barely stops walking. Small items she swallows immediately and whole, because with no grip she cannot dismember anything. Larger items get a second impact and then the same treatment. Her eyes should be the weak point in all of this smoke, and they are protected in a way almost no other birds are. She has long, stiff eyelashes over both eyes, which most birds do not have at all. In a normal season, they take the impact of grass stems and grit as she pushes through cover. In this situation, they are doing a second job, keeping ash and embers off the surface of the eye while she works. A bird that hunts by walking has to protect its eyes at ground level, and that same equipment happens to be exactly what a fire edge demands. Her feet are the other thing that should fail here. She is standing on ground that was on fire minutes ago, on ash that is still hot enough to smoke. The scales up the front of those legs are thick and hard, and there is almost no soft flesh or feather on them below the knee. She also has the whole of her leg length working for her, which puts her body and feathers 3 feet above the surface she is standing on. A short-legged bird could not work this line at all. Her height is not for seeing over grass. Out here, it is insulation. And her wings, on the one afternoon when flight would seem most useful, are doing something else entirely. She uses them as a brake and a balance when she strikes, snapping them half open to keep her weight over the striking foot. She uses them as a screen against something that is fighting back, throwing one forward so a snake commits to feathers instead of leg, and she keeps them folded and dry the rest of the time, because feathers near flame are the one part of her that cannot be replaced today. She can fly. She simply has nothing to gain by leaving the ground where the food is. Now the honest part, because this is genuinely dangerous, and it does go wrong. Birds die in grass fires, including birds that hunt them. And the usual reason is not flame, but wind. A fire flank becomes a fire head the moment the wind swings, and a line that was moving sideways at 4 miles an hour is suddenly coming at you. Smoke also does something worse than burning. It takes visibility away from an animal whose entire method depends on seeing what runs. She is not immune to any of this. She is managing it, and management fails sometimes. And there is a second honest point about what she does and does not know. Nothing here suggests she understands what fire is, or where this one will go. What is certain is that smoke reliably means cover is being removed, and that using it pays. What is not proven is any planning beyond that, and it would be easy and wrong to give her a strategy she has never needed. A simple rule, applied by an animal built to exploit it, produces behavior that looks like a decision from the outside. By 20 past 4, the front has pulled away from her, running east on the wind. She stops following it. This is where a lot of people would expect the story to end. It is actually where the valuable half starts. She turns and walks back into the burn, onto ground that is black, bare, warm, and absolutely silent. Because the fire took 90 minutes, and what it did lasts 2 weeks. The grass that hid every small animal in this stretch is gone down to the soil. Mice that survived underground now have to cross open black ground to reach anything edible. Lizards that relied on dappled cover are now dark shapes on a flat, dark surface with nowhere to break line of sight. The fire did not kill her prey, it repossessed the only defense her prey had. And on that surface, her build stops being a compromise and becomes an unfair advantage. Her eyes sit 4 feet above the ground on a plane with nothing standing on it, so she can see movement at 200 yards. And her one weapon needs exactly 2 conditions: a visible target and a clear space to bring a leg down. The burn provides both, everywhere, for days. She spent an hour next to flame to earn this, and this is the part that actually feeds her. There is a second harvest on the black ground that costs her nothing at all. Things that were cooked in place do not run and do not hide. Insects that live deep in grass tussocks are lying exposed on ash by the thousand. She walks a slow line, taking whatever is there, spending almost no energy for the first time all day. For an animal whose limiting cost is searching, a landscape with no cover in it is not a wasteland. It is a warehouse with the doors off. And the ledger for everything smaller than her is exactly as bad as it sounds. A fire like this does not kill most of the animals in its path, because the small ones go down holes and the fast ones outrun it. What it does is strip their protection for a fortnight at the worst possible moment, with every hunting bird in the district already standing on it. The survivors of the fire are the ones who then have to walk across a black plain in daylight. Surviving the fire is the easy half. Surviving the 2 weeks after it is the real bill. And then, because this is a grassland and not a desert, the balance turns again. Ash puts nutrients back into the soil in a form roots can use immediately. The first rain on burnt ground brings up new grass that is softer, greener, and far richer than the dry stems that burned. Within a month, grazing animals will walk in from miles away to eat that flush, and they will bring their own predators with them. The fire that cost the small animals everything is the same event that makes this patch of ground the best food in the region. Nobody in this story arranged any of it. Lightning or heat lit the grass. Wind decided where it went. A bird with no grip, long armored legs, and a rule about smoke turned that into a day of easy food. A dozen other species did the same thing in their own lanes, without cooperating and without competing. That is what this landscape actually is, a set of accidents being exploited by animals that have each specialized in one narrow part of the wreckage. And it is worth being clear about what she paid for the afternoon. She walked 6 miles she did not need to walk, into heat, smoke, and falling ash. She worked for an hour in a place where one wind shift would have made her position indefensible. She risked her eyes, her feet, and her flight feathers, and flight feathers are her only escape from everything else in this ecosystem. What she bought with that was 2 weeks of hunting on ground where nothing can hide from her. So the sentence that describes her honestly is not the one about courage. She did not brave a fire. She rented the biggest beater in Africa and paid for it in risk. This is the same trade her species makes over and over, in smaller versions, all year. When a honey badger digs out a bank, she is standing behind him, taking what comes out. When a herd of buffalo crushes a path through long grass, she works the edge of the trampled line. She does not open landscapes. She has simply become the animal that is always standing next to whoever does. And by 6 o'clock, she is still out on the burn, moving slowly, eating steadily. A mile behind her, there is a flat-topped thorn tree with a nest in it the size of a cartwheel, built up over several seasons. There are 2 chicks in it, and they will not fly for another 2 months. That tree did not burn, because the fire ran past on the far side of a bare drainage line. But the grass that grew right up to its trunk did burn, along with everything else within half a mile of it. Which is the part she has no answer for. Her whole afternoon worked because black ground hides nothing. She is an 8-pound bird standing 4 feet tall on a surface with no cover on it, visible from a mile in any direction. And the base of that thorn tree, which has been screened by 3 feet of grass every day since the chicks hatched, is now completely exposed. Tonight, something that has walked past this tree 100 times without ever noticing what was in it will be able to see the trunk from a long way off. And it can climb.